Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World, and in this video I'm going to go over the character review for Garam. And I'm going to go over the usual points, how good this unit is, skills, exclusive equipment, gear, ignition weapon, rapport, and revolution, plus the final showcase. I will start immediately by saying how good this unit is, and if you watch my tier list update video, you will already know that I gave her the highest possible ranking. And that's because this unit doesn't really need a lot of investment, and what she provides with the kit is extremely valuable. She can increase the survivability of your units, remove debuffs and status effects from them, remove buffs from enemies, shred the defense of the enemies, boost the damage of your team. Like, she really has a lot of stuff in there. So absolutely top value. Her skills don't even scale necessarily too hard with levels, so you won't really miss out on too much if you don't dupe her up. Revolution is just some quality of life, but nothing major. She doesn't get a super busted passive like, for example, Anniversary Iwa does with a Revolution 5. So she's not really too reliant on Revolution. You can easily just leave her no dupes, and there are way more units that will have priority over her. Now we can just go over the skills really quickly. We can look at the passive. The Bell of Dawn is going to ring every 10 seconds, creating a barrier for Garam. This is one of the things that scale, but you don't really care too much about the size of the barrier, so it's fine. The second part is what's important. All targets are purified to remove all debuffs and status effects from allies and remove buffs from enemies. Garam gains 1 Frost Crystals for each successful purification, max of 5. And we're going to see what these Frost Crystals do with the special move. That's about it for the passive. Pretty simple, but there is a lot of stuff in it. And we're going to get for Revolution 4, this Garam increases allies' attack by 20% each time the Bell of Dawn rings, max of 5 stacks. Now this seems pretty good. The thing is, it takes 50 seconds to get to the 100% attack buff, and we have a lot of units, Garam included, that can remove buffs. Well, it's not a lot, but some of the most annoying ones do. Like, for example, Anniversary Iwa, Urek, and Garam. At the moment, they are the only 3 that can remove buffs. But like, if you're against Garam, this buff is never going to be up. Maybe at 20%, depends who of the two is quicker at casting it. Most likely yours, so probably you're not even going to get that 20%. But yeah, it's kind of tricky. If you're against an Urek, the unit that Urek is fighting will never have this buff. And if you're fighting an Anniversary Iwa, more or less the same thing. So it's cool on paper. Is it really that needed? In some fights, yes, obviously when you can use it is a good buff, but I wouldn't over rely on it. Doesn't really matter if you don't have it. Doesn't matter too much. Then we have the first active skill. She's going to wrap the enemy with the highest attack and remove them from the fight for 6 seconds. It's the same as Awakened Drak or Kunagero, pretty much. And when the enemy is freed, they're going to take damage. This is the only thing that scales with the levels. So again, nothing really important. We don't really care if Garam deals damage or not, especially it's just a 400% anyway. And then the target is knocked down for 2 seconds. Garam is going to gain 2 Frost Crystals, and this skill can only be activated when there are 2 or more enemies. Pretty simple. With the blue team, this works fine. I would have been more worried in a red team. That's why I don't really get Awakened Drak's kit, but okay. So in here, it's fine if we remove the highest attack enemy, because Kaiser is mostly single target, and other units won't really care too much. We don't have units that really focus on the highest attack enemy in the blue team, so this crowd control is okay in here. And also in most elements, it's just red that has a bit of a weird synergy, maybe even green if you're using Child Yuri, but it's still fine in that scenario. Then we have the second active skill. It's going to be teleport behind the highest attack, and sorry, not enemy, ally, and it's going to unleash 3 piercing sword auras and return to the starting position. Every time the sword aura makes contact with an ally, they're going to recover 100 energy, and when it makes contact with an enemy, they're going to take damage and have their defense reduced by 20%. This is one of the things that you care about. For the scaling, it's only a 10% at level 1, but still, I will say it's fine. It's 30% defense decrease against a 60% defense decrease. If you're not at the point where your supports have really high accuracy, you won't even notice this because you're probably going to miss and the defense shred is not even going to apply. So this is only important when you are at the phase of the game where you can actually have supports with high accuracy. That's more or less the thing. And then she's going to get 1 frost crystals for each enemy hit. Pretty cool. And that's about it for this active skill. Pretty nice, but nothing too insane. Then we have this special move. This is a really strong one, I will say. Garam becomes invincible, teleports behind allies, then releases a ray of light to deal 800% of her attack as damage to all enemies. As I mentioned in my first impression video, this is kinda wrong, meaning that if the enemies are in your backline, you're not going to hit them. It is kind of weird. They could have done it better. At least the hitbox should have been a bit different, especially if you specify all enemies, not all enemies in an area or something like that. So should have been different, but it's okay, I guess. And she's going to stun them for 5 seconds. This stun is pretty long, so 5 seconds for an AoE stun is pretty good. And it doesn't synergize well with some units, but I think we're going to see that in the showcase, but still pretty cool effect there. Then she's going to buff all allies physical and magic resistance by 30%, and special move pierce by 60% at level 5 or 30% at level 1. This is the other thing that you care about increasing, so it's a bit unfortunate if it's a no dupes, but it's still a 30% increase in the special move damage, so it's still fine. Finally, Garam uses her frost crystals to increase all allies' physical and magic resistance by 2%, so it can take that to a 40% because we have a maximum of 5 frost crystals, and special move pierce by 3%, which means an additional 15%, so 45% or 75%. So overall, not bad, I would say, even at no dupes. The Revolution 5 is going to give to all allies 200 energy when Torrent of Light activates. This is just going to help in chaining and keeping this buff up, which is definitely a plus. But is it that needed? Not necessarily. So it's just a damage buff and a bit of a survivability boost, but nothing too mandatory from my point of view. So yeah, that's basically it for the skills. Now we can move on to the exclusive equipment really quickly. And here we get physical resistance. This is a really good one to get on a support since they really get very low amounts of physical resistance. She's going to get an HP recovery when the Bell of Dawn creates a barrier for her. It's okay, additional survivability, nothing too major, but definitely nice. The level 2 is pretty cool. When the enemy is freed from the ancient cloth, their HP recovery is blocked for 10 seconds. This is really good, especially if you're against a lot of healers. You remove the main DPS after you release them. They're going to have HP recovery blocked for 10 seconds, and most likely you're going to get rid of them, which is really good. Then we have Garam recovers HP equal to 30% of damage dealt. This is not that important, there is already the heal here. This one is just an okay addition, but I would say is more for PvP kind of stuff. But we still want the plus 20 to have access to the ignition weapons, so that's the thing. Then we have level 4, this is going to add a 20% physical and magic resistance decrease on enemies hit by the Torrent of Light, this special move, for 8 seconds as well. So this is a really nice addition. They kept it a bit low, but from my point of view that's a plus because we will have to face this unit. And if it was like a 40%, that would have been way too much and our team would just get obliterated. 20% is already quite high, to be honest, for the enemy team. So yeah, fine by me for now, and nothing much else to say here. Then the next point is going to be the gear. For the gear, I only upgraded this piece, and I would say that's all she needs. If you're lacking accuracy, then go ahead and get the slot 1 upgrade as well. If that's not enough, go ahead and upgrade the slot 3 as well. The damage one is good, but only if you really fully invest in Garam. She will start dealing a bit of damage, but nothing too massive. So don't expect crazy damage from her, but she's going to deal at least a little bit. Then the next topic is the ignition weapon, and here we have a few options. As usual, for all supports you kind of want to run either Doris or Runda. I would say Doris is probably a bit better on her. She gets a few more benefits from chaining the skills, so I would say Doris would be preferable over Runda, but doesn't really matter. You have to use what you can find and get. Your priority is getting to 100% resistances. That's your first priority. And you can also run, other than Doris and Runda, you can easily run an idea set if you want to. You can run a Sela set if you want. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, what matters is that she survives. If you can make her survive with a support set, good. She can also provide some additional value to your units. Otherwise, just go with whatever can give you the most resistances and survivability, and that will be fine as well. So yeah, that's kind of the idea for the ignition weapon on this unit. And for the rapport, again, I would say swiftness is more than enough. You kind of want to go for accuracy when you start getting some additional dupes so that you actually hit stuff. You could go for accuracy anyway, just because she has a lot of crowd controls and debuffs, she kind of needs to hit. So you could still go for level 6 in any case. And the gift that she takes, these earmuffs, are not really used by anybody other than maybe Oriang and some other useless units. So it's fine to invest those kind of gifts on her. She probably has the highest priority over those. And yeah, the last point is just going to be the revolution. For this one, there are no big things to consider. The effect resistance node is really good to avoid stuns and debuffs from the enemies. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Everything else is kind of for PvP, like in terms of subnodes, so you don't really need to bother too much. You could potentially invest in attack if you get her to Rainbow 5. That's not a bad option. She will deal a bit more damage. Is it needed? No, I don't think I will ever unlock it unless I really have no better uses for my resources. So yeah, not a priority, but you could potentially unlock it. And the cooldown could be a nice addition for sure, but not that important from my point of view. So yeah, the main upgrades here we already talked about. The attack increase is nice, but as we get more and more units with buff removals, this is going to lose a lot of value. And this 200 energy recover is going to be good for your team, because obviously you're going to buff the special move peers for your allies, and they're also going to cast the special move more often with this. So is a good quality of life improvement. You're also going to chain your special moves a lot more. But is it needed? No, from my point of view, you don't need to invest this much for just this point. So yeah, that's pretty much all also for the revolution. And now all that's left is just to go over the showcase. So I have a few clears to show you guys, but it was quite tricky because I mostly used her with an ACK, but I didn't want to show those kind of clears. I wanted to show clears where she was in other kind of teams, less spammy, let's say. So one of these clears is this one. This was in a usual, normal blue team. The thing is, she doesn't really work that well with Kaiser. Kaiser deals damage with basic attacks, not with special move. So she wasn't really that important in this fight, but still I think it makes sense to see how she plays out in general. And then we're also going to see her with different units as well. So let's see here. Data Machine is going to get a good buff from her, and also the other close range units, but again, Novik just got exploded. I think it didn't even have the gear on, to be honest, I don't remember. In here, there is not much going on. There is a stun every now and then, but we cannot stun that annoying Urek that just died already. Kaiser just dealt too much damage in general. She doesn't even need anyone, to be honest, but okay. Here, we didn't really see too much value from Garam, but she definitely tried to boost the survivability of the unit with the additional physical and magic resistance, and the defense shred might have helped a bit with the damage output. Not really easy to tell, but definitely she did something in there. Also, she was not even targeted survivability wise, she was perfectly fine. This team is pretty much the same, but in here Garam is not Rainbow 5, this is just 3 red, just to show if anything changes. The enemy teams are like Urek, Datamashini, and in the previous one we also had Eden, so quite annoying team, but still manageable. And yeah, Garam cannot do anything to Urek, unfortunately. But the other ones are going to be impacted by their crowd control capabilities. Here we also have Novik that exploded again, poor guy. And yeah, the damage from Datamashini is a bit low in this fight, not much to say here. And yeah, just Kaiser deleting enemies. Not much, this is more of a Kaiser showcase. Let me see if the next two fights that I kind of took note of are more of a showcase of actually Garam. Because the next two should be with units that rely on the special move. Let me have a look. Should be this one. This one is more of a Oakin showcase. Maybe I will also cover Oakin because I used him a bit in these floors and a higher deficit. He fell off, but with both Anak and Garam, it kind of still works. So we're going to see here how many special moves it just spams. And we also have Karaka for grouping, just in general. It's pretty good. And we're going to see here the special moves, just insane. From my point of view, this is just crazy. Look at the damage accumulating. It's really stupid. And then here, just the last one. She's going to die soon. Yeah. So here Garam just stunned the enemies and provided Joaquin with additional special move damage, which is pretty nuts. My Joaquin is only Revolution 3, it doesn't have Revolution 5, which would further boost his damage with the special move, so I think it will be pretty much fine, even at higher deficits, kind of. Now let me have a look at another fight with another unit. Let me see, should be this one. Yes, in here I didn't use Anak, but we had Anniversary Iwa to keep everyone alive, so whatever. I will probably play a similar fight when I cover Child Yuri. We're going to see that. But she doesn't work too well. Like, this kind of team composition here is not really the best for Child Yuri, to be honest, because we have Anniversary Iwa that is needed to keep her alive, but at times she just pushes enemies outside of Child Yuri's special moves. At times she pushes them inside of it, which is good. Then we have Garam that is going to stun them, which means they are not going to attack Child Yuri, which she would like to be attacked for the additional damage, which is going to decrease a bit the damage that Child Yuri does. But at the same time is going to increase it with the special move Pierce. So it's a bit tricky-ish. Then we have Karaka that is also going to move enemies at times out of Child Yuri special move. So this fight was a bit shitty, but they do work together. They're still pretty solid, I would say. Here she took quite a bit of damage, so she managed to kill them both with the last special move. And yeah, that's pretty much the last fight that I wanted to show you guys. Again, the value maybe is not apparent at first glance, but definitely the damage boosted is there because Oakin without her does no damage at all. With her, the 60% damage increase is really noticeable. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this unit in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!